Good morning and welcome to the 5-minute summation on Kurt's religion and politics. Today is Thursday the 17th, and today I wanted to talk about a blog post that I did on my blog. The subject of that blog post was self-sacrifice. You'll forgive me periodically if I kind of look off to the side for a little bit because I am trying to make sure that I know where I need to be. So this morning, again, we're talking about self-sacrifice, and anybody who's paying attention to what I'm writing, which again, maybe that's not so many people, but hopefully in the course of time that'll improve, knows that just yesterday or the day before, I think it was the day before, I wrote an article on self-defense. And the thing about it is, the reason I bring that up is that I believe that the way we ought to look at self-sacrifice is almost inverse to the way we ought to look at self-defense. Self-defense is something that we ought to do, particularly as Christians, in very specific situations. It should be an exceptional behavior. It should be a behavior that we do as an exception, not something that we do by default or by standard. Self-sacrifice, on the other hand, is something that Christians should expect to deal with on a daily and ongoing basis, right? Self-defense, as I say, should be justified. Self-sacrifice should be something that you not only don't need to justify, it should be something that you more or less should have to justify not doing, right? So they work almost in exact opposition one to the other in that regard. So the thing is, there are many reasons for self-sacrifice, and it should be understood that part of the problem is that we have a potential for competing interests or concerns. So when I look at the idea of self-sacrifice, I have to sometimes say, which is the thing that I need to do my self-sacrifice for? Is it for this or is it for that, right? And so that's one very serious consideration. But where am I here? Oh yes, that's right. I just wanted to talk about the fact that, or give an example of what I'm talking about when I say there may be competing interests. So I have a son. I've said this a number of times, and the thing about it is I am in what amounts to a self-sacrificial relationship with my son. That's not a maybe, that's a given. It's a thing that's true. And because that's true, if, for example, somebody wants me to lay down my life or take, give of my substance, I have to consider whether or not that's going to interfere with the relationship I have with my son, and I have to consider whether or not the relationship with my son is the more important relationship, or with the other individual, that sacrificial relationship with another individual is the more important thing. And here's the thing you need to remember. It's not always true that self-sacrifice is the best thing that you can do in a given situation or circumstance. That's not always the case, right? Sometimes there are other courses that actually make more sense. In some sense, you can argue that it's really a question of what kind of sacrifice makes the most sense, right? But the thing about it is, there are times when your heart says, I really want to give or do for this other individual, but you realize things like, if I give or do for this other individual past what they really, really need, what I'm actually doing is making it so that they don't have the incentive or the motivation to do the things that they do for themselves. The next consideration is that we hope we will do things when we're not confronted with them, but when we are, there's always a possibility that we're going to find that we're really not ready to do the things that we thought we were going to do. Right? And that's always true. We always hope for the best. We always assume and desire that we're going to do the best, but that's not always how that works out. So sometimes we think, yep, I'd sacrifice, but we realize that's not something that is going to happen, maybe even as a fault of our own. Okay, so I'm basically out of time, so I'm going to sum up, and my sum up is simply that self-sacrifice for the Christian is something you should pretty much always expect is going to exist in your life to one degree or extent or another. And I'm going to go ahead and do my plug for the day. I have a blog at blogs.kpschubert.com. I have a Twitter and Parler account, and each of them is at kpschubert. I have a Facebook page. It is Kurt's Religion and Politics. And I am on Patreon. Again, Kurt's Religion and Politics, should you decide that you wish to support what I'm doing. Okay, I guess that's my video for the day. You have a wonderful day, and hopefully things will go well for you. I've had a pretty good day so far myself, and I'm just hoping for it to get better as time goes on. You have a good day.